Welcome to Ivy Podcast, where we bridge the gap between perspectives so that I can venture into viewing the world as you see, and so you can see the world as I view. Hello and welcome to Ivy Podcast. Today's topic is parents migrating, or parents' journey to New Zealand and their resettlement process and experience. And I've got Jenny here and Gatluak joining me this morning on this amazing and informative topic, which I really look forward to actually exploring. I'll get Jenny to introduce herself, and then Gatluak as well, and maybe if you can just tell us a little bit about your work in the community space within the ethnic communities as well. And
my name is Jennifer Janif. I'm originally from Fiji and I migrated to New Zealand some 33 years ago. I'm a community development practitioner and a community advocate as well, human rights advocate. I have been working in the community for quite a number of years, and I'm very passionate about settlement, resettlement issues, human rights, youth issues. For when I came to New Zealand, I came with my son, who was 4 and now is 37 years old. I was made a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit in 2020 Honours Award, and I'm also a Justice of Peace. I was appointed in 1998. I also graduated this year with a Master's in Human Rights. So that's me.
Oh, congratulations.
My name is Gatluak Chuol. I'm originally from Sudan, now South Sudan. Community on sleeping mode. We don't know which one is which. So I've been in New Zealand for not 15 years, since 2015. I think it's 7 years now. And I'm now currently working with Asylum Seeker Support Trust and been changing jobs, over time. And, that's the nature of life here. Try to fit in. So I've been working in this sector for 20 years now. That's part of me. I think it will never go away. I will retire in it. One of the things, one of the reasons why I like this job is because a few years ago it was me who could have been helped.
And both of you came to New Zealand as parents, so you were already married with children. And did you come as a refugee or?
So what had happened in Fiji in 1987, and I think I'll have to give it a little bit more context to create that understanding. So I'm a 4th generation Fiji born. My ancestors came from different parts of the globe to Fiji. From Afghanistan, from India, from Solomon Islands, and from Guyana. So Fiji was a British colony, so literally they came over they were brought over to work on the sugarcane plantations. So the two major groups, ethnic groups in Fiji at that time, and of course there's the smaller ethnic groups as well, and the diversity is huge and is beautiful as well. But going back to 87, so military coup had happened in May of 1987. And so that became the push factor for our migration to New Zealand. And both of you will be experienced in the, in the space of displacement. That was something we'd never thought of, leaving our country of birth, if I can say that. And New Zealand was our chosen destination.
It's a long story, but I'm the victim of the resettlement. Because one of the saddest truth is when you come from where there's war, families is split. So my family came to New Zealand, and I ended up in the United States. So at the camp, you are not given this right, to choose where to go. So if I had to choose, I would say my family is in New Zealand. I need to be resettled there. But it's like, no, your chance is to be resettled is to go to United States. If you don't want it, somebody will take that place.
So your family was here.
Yeah.
And you wanted to reunite, but
Yeah.
you couldn't, and the only opportunity you were given is the States.
Yeah, given to the States and then find a way out there.
To meet your family again.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I came to New Zealand in 2015. under family reunification. So I got a wife and 4 kids, and some naughty, some good.
Keeping you busy.
That's the joys of parenthood.
And did you guys speak any English when you came to New Zealand?
I have very interesting family, so we don't come from one tribe. Me and my wife. My wife got a different tribe. I'm from a different tribe, and we communicate in Arabic. And the kids are torn in between 2 languages in the house. You know, when they talk to my parents, my relatives, they experience different language. And then when it is their mom's relatives, a different language, and multiculturalism in the house.
Nice.
Yeah, 2 born here, 2 born in Kenya.
And Jenny, what about you? Did you speak English?
So Fiji and New Zealand have and continue to have very close ties. And so when I went to high school in Fiji, the examinations that we set was New Zealand qualifications, like New Zealand school entrance and university entrance. So I spoke English, but coming to New Zealand, the Kiwi accent is so different. It was like relearning a new language, understanding the idioms, and that in itself was a huge challenge.
Yeah. What challenges did you both face as parents?
So first of all, like Fiji is a tropical country, and when we came to New Zealand in 1989, it was the midst of winter, July, and my Lord, you know, all you were used to was wearing cotton clothing, and here, you know, you were not prepared for the winter, so you walked out of the airport, and Auckland airport was so little at that time. Oh, blast in your face, you know, winter blast.
Yeah.
So that I would say weather was the first challenge.
Oh, wow.
And then the part or the island I come from in Fiji is the second largest island, which is Vanuatu, and so it was an agricultural rural hometown that I came from. So it was like, you know, cultural shock in terms of bigger space.
What about you, Gatluak? What are your...
It's quite like Jenny, you know. Although I was exposed to different weather in the United States, cold. I used to live in Minnesota, you know, sometimes it's minus 30 degrees. But when I came here, it's quite different, you know, a lot of rain, and the weather can change quickly. I was like, yeah, I need to adjust to this, you know, things to learn. And, you know, when people come here, especially from the refugee camps, people make up a lot of stories. Yeah. I remember we were used to be told in the camp, you know, if you go to New Zealand has more sheep than the people. and once you get there, you know, you have this little tap in the house, you know, you turn it on, the milk will come out.
Wow.
And you don't even need to go to the shop, and, you know, your fridge will be full of milk from the house. You don't even... I was like, when I first came here, I was like, where's the tap for the milk?
Now we pay more money for milk than ever.
It's funny you say that, because like what we heard is it is the land of milk and honey.
Yeah. So those stories, those perceptions, you come with them.
Exactly.
You know, you know, you're going to find employment, you're going to work, you're going to help people. You know, your life will be way better. And when you come here, you are struggling to find even a cleaning job.
Yeah.
You know, I tried that.
Yeah.
When I first came here, you know, 40 applications a week, not even a thank you email.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I need to slow down, you know, find a way how to survive. Yeah. And then I left that and then went to the community connections that worked better for me. It's like, you know, it's changing those mindsets, you know. It's the same thing for the families as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because when we came in those days, there was very, you know, the demographics was very different at that time. Number of migrants or refugees, I've met very few, you know, very small ethnic groups. And so the support system we have set up in place now, settlement support that wasn't there in those days. So I basically used the analogy: you were just thrown into the sea and you just learned how to swim. Yeah, and so you swam on your own until, unless you had some family support in terms of community connections and so forth.
Community connection is really important, because as you were speaking, I was sort of thinking, again, referring back to my mum, she learned how to drive with, by approaching a community worker and saying, hey, can you teach me how to drive? And that'd probably be illegal now, but now you need like a proper instructor. But he was great. He taught my mum, who'd never driven, by the way, ever, to drive, and had she not reached out to the community, she would have had to pay for it. She would have had to book, filling out the forms. She doesn't, you don't even know how to spell your name sometimes. Like, those things are really important. So the services that we've got in place are really, really, and I've volunteered and I've got experience within, some of the organisations, and they do amazing work to sort of make that transition a bit smoother. But then, we came in 1997. We had a few Kurdish families here already, so we had that connection. We came with our cousins and uncles. What worries me is a lot of people's, for a lot of people, that survival mode hasn't switched on, and they stay in their, they stay isolated and they don't reach out, or when people reach out, they just cannot. And it's just because they've experienced so much trauma, they've reached that level, I feel like it's really important to reach out. There are services out there.
Like, again, I was saying in the earlier years when we came, so it was, you were dependent on your school community. My son went in Mount Albert Gladstone Primary, so it was fellow parents who sort of gave you, where to go to, advise around this and that. So you, the parent or the new migrant, had to go out and seek that support yourself, because nobody else otherwise was going to come to you. So you had to find spaces, that you could go to.
Just to help our audiences understand, what happens the moment a refugee is resettled in New Zealand? What happens? We go to the Migrated Refugee Resettlement Centre. We stay there for 6 weeks, Gatluak? 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Too much information in a short time. You forget things, and the language issue, and they find it more useful when it is a community doing that.
Okay, so their own community.
Yeah, their own community.
Okay.
So they understand it better.
So they find the connection better with their own people, really.
Yeah.
Because you're speaking in your own language, even though you're provided with interpreters, but still, like Gatluak said, that, information overload, you're new, you're finding your feet. And
I remember when we were in the camp, before we got into America, they brought people to give us orientation. And the way they did it is really very nice. They brought those who went as refugees. They come back with life experience. Someone will tell you, don't do what I did. You learn from that a lot, because that person went through it. Some of them were like, don't just find a job to maintain you, but go to school. That thing will never end. And then you come back, get a better job. Those tips, those advices, it's much better than you are confined here. You are not even allowed to go to the community. Community is not even allowed to come to you. Going to the Mangere, you have to make an appointment. Why you want to see that person?
So for 6 weeks, no visitors?
No.
You've got to make an appointment? Even your own community?
No, we tried last time to take them out for War Refugee Day, to know how New Zealand works.
I wonder if that's changed, because when we came in 1997, we had all these, honestly, it was so cool, because almost every day we had a Kurdish family come bring food, right? And so again, we were 3 or 4 families in the centre. They would bring food for us. We'd have parties. Like, we were knowing about the the party people, like the Kurdish people. They always dance, and have drums, and we had musicians. They were allowed to come in.
Yeah, but I know the immigration New Zealand tries to protect people. With the community space, you cannot do that, because there's they want to interact with the community.
It makes it a lot easier because you feel welcomed by your own community members.
Yeah. You tend to, connect a lot better with people
Exactly.
from your background.
And the first reaction you get on your arrival, this is how you perceive the country. You get confined, and this is how you're going to see it.
Yeah.
And to make it even worse, you will be taken to the remote cities like Nelson and all that. It's all like, no.
I mean, can you imagine, like, literally just ran away from a genocide, or you've come here and you're in this city. There's nobody that looks like you. There's nobody that can speak your language. There's no shop with the types of food that you want. There's no one to connect with, and it's only because they say, Auckland's overly populated.
Yeah.
You're taking them from, like, you're not making them feel any better by putting them in cities where they don't feel belong. Or they don't, that they belong in. And then again, have we educated the community that's supposed to be accepting you? Have we told them where you're from? Have we educated them about you so they can approach you and ask you questions and make you feel included? Or have we just gone and dumped these families here because Auckland's overly populated? And
we went to Nelson 3 weeks ago for the Refugee Alliance, and we went to talk to the communities, see how things are. We went to one of these schools. We met these students. Most of those people are from Colombia, and we talked to them. They're so nice kids, and one of the teachers were telling me, there's a young girl here wants to talk to you, and she was like, crying. I was like, okay, let her come. And when she came, she was rapping all over me, like crying. I've never seen African in real life. Like, she's so happy. This is how isolated they are.
And this is New Zealand.
And this is New Zealand. It's like you put them in a cage. I was like, I really feel bad.
What advice would you guys have for migrant parents or refugees coming into New Zealand?
The parents need to change first before the kids change, because it's a big change coming here. It's a big change, language-wise, cultural-wise. There are a lot of things you will not let go. But they will be affecting kids. Some of the parents are too controlling. And with kids here would be like, no, I shouldn't be treated that way and all that. But it's fine. It's a different environment. There are things you need to learn.
But were you told that when you were moved, hey, you've got to drop some of those traditions or some of those cultural practices?
No.
For my mum, that's like, no, I don't want to drop that. We did this back home, But you don't think about these things when you're being resettled as like a refugee or migrant.
So it's understanding, as our brother Gatluak has said, it's understanding the New Zealand context, the New Zealand environment. See where we can, where the three of us have come from, different countries. Different styles of parenting, where the parent would basically give instructions to the child, this is how it needs to be done. But when you, this needs to be done. And when you come to New Zealand, we've got to understand that children have rights, there's women's rights. And it, as you rightly pointed out, Brother Gatluak, different. So we have to understand that this is more a conversation. It's not about discipline. And for some parents, of course, language is a barrier. Don't feel disempowered that the child will learn English before you, and the child now holds power. So you, as the parent, in your own language, this is where the community support is really good. If you, say, for example, attend parenting classes in your own language, you will understand the laws, the strategies that you can use. Because sometimes you see cases where the child speaks English and has that power over the parent, that, I'm going to call police, or I'm going to call this agency. But you are the parent, you're resilient. That's especially for those who have been displaced and have come to a new country. Gosh, I say, look at you survivors, you're resilient.
And also we, some of us come from a culture where, a man is not allowed to get to the kitchen and cook.
The New Zealand teaches you happy wife, happy life.
Exactly. But then you feel for the men folk too, because in our communities it's a bit of stigmatization if they go out into the, go into the kitchen or do roles that are traditionally female roles.
I had one of my friends last time, he was changing the nappies and was closing his eyes. Man, you will open those eyes.
So it's that,
Yeah.
that change, and because then you don't have the family support you would have back home.
Yeah.
So you really need to, work as a team.
Yeah.
You're already a family, but work as a team. Somebody's going to work.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do childcare
Yeah.
and a whole raft of chores that need to be done.
And if you don't do
Yeah.
it right, if you don't acknowledge that things have changed, this would be the cause for family violence.
Exactly.
The woman will get tired because she's the one running everything. And man, because of a different mindset, is not contributing that much. It's like things change and things you have to do them together. And that's a cause for mental health as well. If you don't get all the
Yeah,
support
good
you
point.
need, this becomes too much pressure, and you don't know how to handle it. It just explodes, and you don't have a support around you. It's good to be get to the other communities, know people, try to find your way out. Like I'm too close to Burmese community than my Sudanese community, and when I get to Burmese community, I'm treated like a king.
And you get to know more about
I
that
got to know
community.
more about that
It
community,
helps with the breaking down
Yeah.
of perceptions, barriers, stereotypes. Yeah.
And you see how things work in that community.
Exactly, and you learn something,
you
take away.
learn something.
Yeah.
Don't disconnect yourself.
When you migrate or come as through your from a refugee journey, it's like when you settle, you're constantly, as you rightly pointed out, Ashley, you're on the go. Your body system is so attuned to that. It's sometimes either fight or flight mode, constantly.
Yes.
See, in our community, in the Fiji Indian community, as I was saying earlier, I'm fourth generation Fiji born. But when you unpack each generation, given when Indians were first brought over to Fiji, it was, to work on the sugarcane plantation, the mistreatment, the injustice, the, having to work long hours on the farms, raping of women, even after childbirth, you just had to continue working. So I call it the intergenerational violence from one generation to the other. And for us, then when the coup happened, Fiji's had 4 coups during 20 years. That's something we haven't spoken about, as you rightly said, the trauma's there. It's only now that we've started unpacking or coming to terms with the fact and are talking about it. And family violence is another issue. So you can see that intergenerational trauma and violence leading to, continuing violence as well.
And especially from us, those who come from different countries, you come with these cultures. Some of the things do not even have a name.
Yes.
Like family violence to us, it does not have a name because it's always there. It exists.
Yeah.
They say it's okay to smack a child.
Yeah.
But it's not. Things that you think are okay, they are terrible here.
Yes.
We had a friend's little brother came over, and my mum, and I don't know what he did, and my mum was like, "Oh, don't do that." And he's like, "I'm gonna call the police on you." And my mum's like, "It's not even my own child calling the police on me. What am I gonna do? Take your friend home."
Yeah. So the fear of the parent, because the child knows who to call, what to do, how to report, and even both of you will agree to this. Is some of our languages, like we rightly said, there's some words which you can't even interpret into English, but then there's some sayings or idioms, slangs, as we say, and when you translate it into English, oh my Lord, it's about very threatening. I'm going to do this, and then the poor child who's grown up here or growing up here will take that literal translation.
And you might come from as a man raised differently, and then you have this authoritative power, do this, and the kids would be like, Dad, you are rude. It's like, and there's a lot of support system here, but the problem, we don't know how to access that support. And connecting with other people, knowing people that will introduce you to to the support.
Is there one platform where everyone can go for information, like a one-stop shop
information
online,
hub.
like an information hub?
We all work, the three of us, with grassroots communities. So like you rightly said, brother, that whilst you may have leaders, but then it's also important to drill down to the grassroots communities to know who are the movers and shakers in that community, women, youth, and the silent voices who are just working away, chipping away in the community. We need to, I always say members of our community are all leaders in their own right. So it's about building that leadership. They have resilience. It's giving them opportunities to the young people, mentoring each other, what we would have done traditionally back home in collective cultures.
What I find so effective is, hosting community events, and then you could have some information with you. This is where you're going to get the ordinary people, solo moms would be like, pass things around, this is what we do. If you know anyone who needs some help, we can be found here. And these are the services we offer to the community, the support, and we have, and we know some connections, things like that, I think would be the good way to connect communities.
And you're quite good at that, Gatluak. Like, for example, you'd get invited to a community event, and then you'll go up to random people and say, hello, I'm Gatluak. That is quite good, because you do need everybody's voice, right?
You go to the quiet ones, those who are like sitting alone. You just go to them.
Exactly.
You might be a solution for them.
Yes, you might be the solution, and also you'd be surprised what they're doing on their own. The information you will get as well.
So definitely, I guess, investing into communities as well, and just seeing if there's like a structure for like the different communities.
And communities are like everywhere. You know? If you talk about the former refugee communities, there's a variety of them. If you go to Colombian community, they apply for funding maybe for social event, and then you find a Burmese community, would be denied. We don't have that because there's a such organization that apply for that funding, and then this community becomes a victim of that, and then they become more isolated. And that's one thing with the community. Once they apply for funding and they get declined, they will never apply again. They say, we tried that before, it's all racism and it's all that. We don't even understand what is happening, so we give up.
I think while the journey of migration is difficult, challenging, but we all come with strengths, resilience, and as you know, I speak for myself here, and you sit back now 33 years later and you say, how did I do that? And you thank your family members as well, because you worked as a team to get, and others who have supported you on that process. I think for me, just being grateful again to New Zealand for giving us the opportunities we have, beautiful country to live in, and it's also about giving back and getting our young ones involved in community activities and to do that. So thank you for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.
This is a tiny nation we never knew about, and it becomes so great, to be a part of it and helping it, building it and build the society. And I think platforms like this, can bring people together, discuss things, share ideas, stories, and connecting. And
it's nice that we've all got like a different, come from a different journey, but we're all on the same table, and we're talking about the same issues, and we're finding the same solutions. To all our audience, I hope you guys have learned something new from us, and take it away, and take it to your communities, and just do good and support anybody. Reach out to people that you can see that are struggling. All right, awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Gatluak and Jenny, and thank you to our audiences for listening.
Thank you.
This episode is funded by New Zealand Lottery Grants Board. Thank you for your support and generosity.